Hey everyone, and welcome to Hidden Truth, the channel that pulls back the curtain on the hidden forces shaping our world. If you want to understand the real game, the strategies people use to get ahead, then you've come to the right place. Subscribe now for your daily dose of unfiltered insights. Let's get into it. Today, we're diving into the dark art of manipulation, straight from the playbook of one of history's coldest and most calculating minds, Machiavelli. This isn't about being nice or playing fair. It's about understanding how influence truly works. And in a world where attention is currency, those who know how to manipulate it often win. Most people try to gain influence the wrong way. They shout louder, try harder, beg for attention. But Machiavelli understood that true power is often silent, subtle, and unseen. It's about controlling the game without ever appearing to play. It's about getting inside people's heads and shaping their reality from within. These aren't just theories. They're tactics honed over centuries, designed to work on anyone, regardless of their power, status, or defenses. If Machiavelli were alive today, he wouldn't be arguing online or selling self-help courses. He'd be the puppet master, pulling the strings from the shadows. His influence felt everywhere, but his presence nowhere to be seen. The first key is to bypass direct confrontation. Don't try to change someone's behavior directly. Instead, infect their mind with a thought, a seed of an idea that will grow and shape their actions from within. Plant a suggestion, then disappear. For example, say something like, "You ever notice how people who act fast usually aren't afraid?" That's not advice. It's a subtle nudge. Now, every time they hesitate, that thought will resurface, guiding their actions without them even realizing it was your influence. Machiavelli also understood the power of warmth as a weapon. People are naturally suspicious of coldness, so he'd use charm as a disguise. He'd smile, compliment, laugh at the right moments, all as a calculated strategy to disarm his targets. Once you're seen as safe and friendly, people relax, they open up, they trust you more. And that's when you strike, dropping a single sentence that reshapes the conversation, a subtle nudge that recalibrates their focus, a question that feels harmless but anchors your control. Modern manipulation isn't aggressive, it's surgical, precise, disguised as friendliness. While everyone else tries to dominate by force, Machiavelli would dominate through comfort and strike beneath it. He would build predictability, then break it, because people only fear what they can't predict, and fear is the most honest form of respect. So you start by being consistent, available, clear, reliable, friendly. You lull them, then one day you change. A late reply, a short sentence, a colder tone, no reason. And suddenly they panic, not because you did something wrong, but because you've become unfamiliar. That gap between who they thought you were and who you're becoming is where your control starts to bloom. They'll lean in, try harder, wonder what happened, try to win back the version of you that never existed. Machiavelli didn't strike with force. He created emotional imbalance and let the victim try to repair it. Furthermore, he would make himself necessary, then scarce. People are addicted to reliability, so give them what no one else can. Solve a problem no one else sees. Offer clarity when others are confused. Make them feel safe when the world feels chaotic. Then withdraw, not with cruelty, but with elegance. Now when you're gone, they feel the absence, not because they need you, but because they got used to you. And dependence doesn't feel like weakness until you're alone with it. The power move is never to demand attention. It's to create a gap, then become the only person who knows how to fill it. Machiavelli wouldn't offer comfort for free. He'd offer it with timing. And once they lean on him, he'd step back just far enough to leave them off balance. He would say one thing that rewrites their identity, as most people don't know who they are. They live off mirrors, becoming what others reflect back at them. Machiavelli would reflect something strategic. You're dangerous when you stop second-guessing yourself. You're smarter than you let people believe. You don't need to explain yourself anymore. Say these lines once, then shut up. They'll think about them for days, weeks, years, because you didn't give them advice. You gave them a lens to see themselves through, a lens that flatters them, challenges them, shapes them. Now, whenever they rise, they think of you, and whenever they fall, they crave your reflection again. That's not influence. That's branding their soul. Another method involves blurring intentions so they fill in the gaps. For certainty is safety, but confusion is power. Machiavelli wouldn't tell people what he wants. He'd let them guess. One day he's supportive, the next distant. One moment warm, the next unreadable. Not because he's unstable, but because they need something to chase, and the mind chases what it can't define. You don't explain your silence. Don't clarify your motives. You let the ambiguity do the work. And people will write entire stories in their head, trying to make sense of your inconsistency. They won't stop analyzing you until they understand you. And if you're smart, they never will. Confusion breeds obsession, and obsession becomes gravity. You don't push, you orbit, and soon they revolve around you. He would turn every interaction into an emotional imprint. Unlike the average manipulator who focuses on facts, Machiavelli would focus on feeling, because people forget details, timelines, who said what, but they never forget how you made them feel. That's your leverage. If you want to manipulate someone, don't try to prove a point, make them feel understood, seen, powerful, even if they're not, then leave. Now, the next time they feel misunderstood, ignored, or small, they'll think of you not because you were kind, but because you were unique. Most people make noise. You made imprint, and people return to whatever gave them the strongest feeling. Even if that feeling was built on illusion, he'd mirror their darkness before offering light, knowing people trust what they see of themselves in you. Not the version they show the world, but the version they hide. Machiavelli wouldn't appeal to the mask. He'd speak directly to the part they're afraid of. You don't trust easily. I don't either. You don't like weakness. That's why we're alike. You've been underestimated your whole life. I see it in your silence. These statements aren't compliments, they're invitations. Now they feel like you're not just aligned, that you're the only one who understands their shadow. This is intimacy. And once you offer intimacy, you own proximity. But you don't stay in the darkness. You lead them out of it slowly, subtly, silently. You become the solution to the part of them they hate. And people never leave what heals them, even if it hurts them in the process. He would speak in delayed echoes, while most people speak to respond. You speak to echo. Machiavelli would never try to win in real time. He'd drop a line that doesn't matter now, but will sting later. You're going to realize soon why I stayed silent. One day you'll understand what I chose not to say. I hope when it hits you, you'll remember this moment. These phrases don't resolve anything, don't correct behavior, don't teach. They haunt, because now every future mistake they make feels like you predicted it. And people obey those who feel like prophets. The less you say, the more it echoes later. You don't speak to change the moment. You speak to own the next one. He would collapse their defenses with false safety. Machiavelli wouldn't force his way past defenses. He'd convince you there was no threat, so you ask questions calmly. Never raise your voice. Agree more than you push back. You make them feel brilliant, validated, in control. You let them think. They're the leader, and while they're feeling secure, you guide them ever so slightly where you want them to go. Then when they arrive, when they realize you've been shaping the path the whole time, they don't feel tricked. They feel grateful because you protected their ego. People follow more willingly when they think they're leading. You don't need the credit. You want the compliance. And Machiavelli never asked for recognition. He made himself essential in the background of every decision. Finally, he would end with incompleteness. Everyone's addicted to closure. They want the ending, the conclusion, the certainty. So don't give it to them. Machiavelli would leave conversations unresolved, messages unanswered, moments unwrapped. Why? Because people return to unfinished stories. They circle back to silence, analyze pauses, chase interpretation. You might say, "There's more I could say, but I won't," or "I'll let you figure it out," or "This isn't the time," but it will make sense soon. And just like that, they lean in. That leaning is power. You never need to pull them again. They'll follow the void you left. And what's more addictive than someone who made you feel almost complete? Someone who let you walk away without the ending, but with the obsession to find it. After these tactics, after the plays, what happens next? What happens after you've infected their mind with silence? After you became the echo they can't stop chasing? You don't need to say another word, because now they speak for you, defend you, adjust for you. They orbit you not because you asked, but because you've conditioned them to need your gravity. This is what Machiavelli understood better than any strategist in history. True manipulation doesn't end with action. It ends when the victim rewires themselves around your absence. First, they feel imbalance. They can't explain it. They just feel like something is off. You used to respond faster, give more, offer more certainty, but now you don't. Not in a hostile way, but in a way that makes them question themselves, not you. They ask themselves, "Did I change? Did I do something wrong? Why do I feel anxious?" And they don't. That's the moment they start compensating, being nicer, softer, more present, more emotional, and you just breathe, because now they're no longer responding to you. They're responding to who you used to be. That's manipulation. You don't take from them. You make them offer more voluntarily. Then identity confusion sets in, and this is where things get dangerous. Now, they don't just feel confused, they start changing subtly, slowly. They mimic your tone, reflect your logic, mirror your silence. Why? Because you've positioned yourself as the standard, the reference point. They no longer act based on instinct. They act based on how you might perceive it. What would he think if I said this? She wouldn't approve of this tone. I should be more like them. They've internalized your gaze even when you're not watching. They don't call this control, they call it respect. But it's not. It's submission dressed as self-improvement. And you've said nothing. Machiavelli would be smiling. Then comes behavioral looping. Now you've created the loop. They feel a moment of disconnection. They try harder. You remain distant. They invest more. You offer just enough warmth to keep them from leaving. Then you pull away again. This doesn't cause rejection. It causes attachment, because now they believe the problem is solvable. They just need to try harder, say the right thing, be better. That's addiction. You've become the dealer, and they're chasing your approval like it's oxygen. As Machiavelli said, men are driven by two principal impulses, love and fear. You've engineered both. They love how you made them feel once. They fear never feeling it again. So they repeat the loop, begging in silence, pleasing through performance, and the more they give, the less you need to. This leads to emotional branding. When the control becomes permanent, they meet someone new and compare them to you. They hear a phrase and remember how you said it. They hesitate before reacting because they wonder how you would have handled it. You're not just a memory, you're a standard. Their mind has carved a space in its architecture that's shaped like you, and everything else must now pass through it. This is how emotional branding works, not as a logo or slogan, but as a psychic fingerprint. The way you made them feel, the way you made them question themselves, the way you made them crave approval. They couldn't earn. It's embedded now, and you haven't said a word. Finally, silent authority is established. You've stopped messaging, stopped guiding, you're gone. But they still behave like you're watching. They still think in your voice, speak with your rhythm, pause with your silence. They seek your approval in new people and feel betrayed when it doesn't feel like you. You've become a ghost with gravity, a shadow that shapes the day. And if they ever try to confront you, demand answers, or ask for closure, you give them nothing, just like Machiavelli would. Because true power isn't proven through presence, it's measured through influence after you've disappeared. You've infected their thoughts, rewired their reactions, branded their emotions. But influence alone is never enough for Machiavelli. He didn't just want to be followed, he wanted to be obeyed. Not through threats, not through dominance, but through a darker force. Complicity, the kind that makes them betray others for your approval. Lie to protect your reputation, hurt themselves to stay near you. And the brilliance, they'll think they're doing it by choice. Because the greatest form of power isn't when people admire you. It's when they fear losing the version of themselves you've allowed them to become. One way is to let them compromise for you. You want control. Don't ask for loyalty. Let them offer betrayal. You never say, "Tell me what they said," or "Keep this between us," or "Take my side." Instead, you say things like, "I won't ask you to choose. I trust you'll do what's right." You always know how to handle these things. Now they make the decision. They lie for you, protect you, sacrifice someone else to stay in your favor. And once they've done that, they are yours. Because guilt bonds deeper than love. And once someone betrays others for your benefit, they can't risk you ever walking away. They won't want to because you know too much. But more than that, they've already invested in you. And people protect what they've compromised to keep. He would ensure he was never the one holding the knife. When it's time to cut someone off, ruin a rival, or end a relationship, you don't act. You let them do it for you. You drop questions like poison, asking, "You ever notice how he only shows up when it benefits him?" Or, "I don't know. I just get the feeling she talks about you differently when you're not around." Or even, "It's probably nothing. Just be careful." Now, they start watching, second-guessing, distancing. You didn't accuse anyone, didn't force a reaction, but the wedge is in. And when the relationship collapses, they don't blame you, they blame their own awareness. Meanwhile, you remain clean, untouched, respected. This is Machiavellian mastery. Do the work from the shadows, but never appear in the consequence. Would become the keeper of their secrets, because the more someone tells you, the more you own. You don't ask for confession. You just listen with such poise, such calm curiosity, that the truth slips out. Now you're not just someone they trust. You're the only person who holds that side of them, and as long as you hold it, you hold them. Not through threat, but through presence. Because even if you never bring it up, they remember what you know. And that knowledge, that silence, keeps them loyal in ways fear never could. They don't want you to use it, but they know you could. And that changes how they move around you. They speak more gently, tread more carefully, seek to stay on your good side. Because when people give you their secrets, they give you their leverage. And Machiavelli never needed to expose anyone. He simply let them remember what they revealed. He would let loyalty feel like a privilege, not a transaction. The average manipulator demands commitment. Machiavelli would never. He'd act like loyalty was a rare invitation, a privilege few receive, a connection earned, never assumed. And when people feel like they've earned something sacred, they protect it more viciously. So you reward actions subtly, perhaps with a knowing glance, a rare compliment, an inside reference only they catch. You make them feel chosen, not publicly but privately, intimately. And once someone feels like they've been selected, they begin performing, not for validation, but for retention. They don't want to lose their seat at your table because in their mind, you don't need them. You've created the ultimate psychological imbalance. They need you more than you need them, and they feel lucky just to stay close. That's not influence. That's hierarchy. And it's invisible. He would use guilt as a psychological chain. Guilt isn't always loud. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes all you do is withdraw. You don't reply to the message, take longer to look at them, seem a little distant. They start thinking, did I say something wrong? Did I disappoint them? Did I lose their respect? You don't need to confirm anything. The guilt will do the work. They'll over-apologize, overcompensate, change their behavior just to win back the version of you they imagine they've lost. That's the chain. They betray their boundaries to protect your perception of them. Reshape their personality for your comfort. Rehearse every word before they speak it, and they call it growth. But it's not, it's submission. Machiavelli wouldn't control people through orders. He'd let them imprison themselves just to stay in his good graces. He would let the fear of losing you replace the need to understand you. You don't need to be understood. You need to be feared losing. You keep parts of yourself hidden, share less than they want, show up unpredictably, but always leave a mark. So now they stop asking questions, stop needing clarity, stop expecting answers because they've realized that trying to understand you pushes you away, and they'd rather be confused than alone. So they adjust. They become quieter, more cautious, more agreeable. They call this being safe, but really, it's learned submission. Machiavelli didn't just make people want him, he made them terrified of life without him. And that's when you know you've won, not when they admire you, but when they shrink just to remain in your light. You've made them loyal. You've made them doubt themselves. You've conditioned their emotions. You've rewritten their identity, but there's still one final move, one no one expects. You disappear. Not in rage, not in punishment, but with silence. So sharp it reshapes their reality. Because true Machiavellian power doesn't rest in what you can do when present. It rests in what happens after you've left. That's how you become untouchable. Not by staying in the game, but by becoming the board. Remove yourself without warning. No explanation, no speech, no grand finale, just quiet. Let them wonder if you're upset. Let them rethink everything they said. Let them relive the moment your tone shifted, looking for signs they missed. That's where the power sharpens, because people obsess over what they can't resolve. And you just became their greatest unanswered question. Now they don't just miss you, they start rewriting themselves trying to win back your ghost. You're not a person anymore. You're a riddle with emotional consequences. This is controlled by absence. Machiavelli knew one law few ever learn. Presence limits respect. Absence defines it. When you're always available, they expect you, adapt to you, manage you. But when you vanish, they restructure their world, trying to find you again. They speak, more softly, hoping it draws you back. They become more strategic, just in case you're watching. They make decisions aligned with your values, because your memory still guides them. That's when you've crossed into the highest form of manipulation, silent authority, where you control them without needing to be seen, heard, or even named. Let others speak your legacy. You don't tell your story, they do. You leave behind impressions, unfinished thoughts, subtle rules no one can trace back to you directly, and they retell it, warn others about you, imitate what they think you would do. Now you're not just remembered, you're mythologized. You don't trend, you haunt. You don't persuade, you linger. And in every room they enter, your echo walks in before them. They might say, "He taught me to think before I speak." Or she was unpredictable. It kept everyone sharp, or you could never tell what he was planning, but it always worked. You didn't demand respect. You carved it into their memory. And Machiavelli never asked to be quoted, but centuries later, we are still quoting him. Become a standard, not a person. The people who win the loudest disappear the fastest. The ones who leave nothing behind get erased. But when you stop being a person and become an expectation, you can't be replaced. You become the model they compare. Others too. The reference point they use when they're lost. The fear they feel when someone reminds them too much of you.